feel free to leave and then watch the recording later. All right. So how to stay connected with our chapter. Since you're here, you've probably already done this, but for anyone watching on the recording, you can go to mugs.marketo.com/Toronto mug and create an account there. Okay, upcoming opportunities. So we have in March, Adobe Summit. If you've never been to a summit, it is definitely something to experience. And you're kind of getting a sneak peek today, aren't they, Lucas? Lucas has been selected to be a speaker.
Thank you, Matt. Very excited to be there too, and inviting everyone to join us.
All right. Oops. Okay. So recognize the remarkable. They're also taking submissions for the Adobe Experience Maker Awards. So you can, if you want to nominate or submit, you can apply at the link below, and we'll be sharing this deck out. Okay, so there is a new renewal exam available for free. So essentially, you can now renew your any Marketo certifications for free. You can go to the link included in this page, which is pretty nice. Before, it used to cost quite a bit. So going forward, yeah, it'll be free renewals. Just some upcoming webinars. Again, we'll be sending this out so you can RSVP the next one. This one's on Thursday, so it looks like it's engagement map. If you want to give feedback for mug feedback, you can fill out a form. Again, there's a link in this presentation. And if you give feedback on Marketo to Trust Radius, you'll be eligible for a $25 gift card. And just some of the upcoming Marketo mugs. Okay, so now that we got through all that, let's go to what everyone's actually excited for. And Lucas, I'm going to pass this over to you to share.
All right, thank you, Matt. Let me share my screen here. Okay. Share this whole tab. Oh my gosh. Okay, can you see my slides presenting?
Yep. So.
Right. So, hello everyone. It's very nice to meet all of you and to be here to talk a little bit about AI. But first, I would like to introduce me a little bit. Matt already said a few things. First thing, I'm Brazilian. I'm speaking from São Paulo, Brazil. So if you don't understand anything that I've said, if it sounds weird, you can ask me to repeat it. It's okay, no problem. Uh, I'm graduated in applied and computational mathematics here in Brazil. So I'm very tech savvy and I really enjoy problem solving. So, and I'm also a Marketo expert and master certified. And as a random curiosity, I'm a proud vegetarian. It's been, I think, 7 years now. Not totally sure, but it's been a while, and I love it, and I love eating tofu. And another random curiosity for those who were here before, Matt was saying that he made me a Maple Leaf fan, and that's true. So I'm watching hockey tonight with you guys for and cheering for the Maple Leafs. So today we are going to talk about a little bit about AI, and to go through it, we are first going to talk about ethics and data privacy. I usually let that to the ending, but we were discussing on this presentation, and what we noted from previous presentations is that everybody is thinking on ethics and data privacy. Alexa, para. Sorry, I have an Alexa and she heard me. But everybody's thinking about ethics and data privacy until it gets out of the way. So we'll start with that, so you can relax your mind and then go to the cool use cases. And first thing to understand how you can create the use cases, you have to prototype your ideas, and I'm going to share with you the way that I do it, and I believe it's very helpful. Then we are going to free use cases using AI and ChatGPT with Marketo, how you distinguish between real and bot leads, how you classify your leads into personas, and how you can engage leads on their terms. So how you can send emails and communications in the best send time for each lead using ChatGPT. And then we are going to talk a little bit on costs and how to calculate them to create your own AI project. All right. And oh, somebody wants to say something.
Oh, I was gonna say, if anyone has any questions, just feel free to throw them in the chat there as well. Lucas, I'm not sure if you want to tackle them during or after, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
All right. No, I was thinking after each topic of this, we can stop for a while and discuss and bring the questions. So it's not like a lecture from me to you guys. It's more like a conversation, and we can exchange ideas here. All right. So don't be shy and send your questions or comments or crazy AI ideas that you have, and we can discuss throughout the presentation. It's really don't let me talking alone. So with no further ado, let's start with the ethics and data privacy. And the first thing that I'd like to add here is that I'm not a lawyer. As you said saw in the start, I'm a mathematician, so I'm far from being the source of truth in this matter. What I'd like to share with you guys is some things that I learned and studied in order to do a few AI projects, so you can feel safer and know what you have to do before you can start any AI project in terms of ethics and data privacy. And the first thing is that ChatGPT is not confidential. The things that you are sending to ChatGPT can be used for training, can be used for securing that you are not violating their terms of use and all of that. So it's not confidential, and you should be aware of that every time you are using it. But it can be safe to use if you know when they retain your data and how they use your data in the future. So the first thing is that if you are using ChatGPT via API, or using the API, OpenAI will not retain your data to improve its model. So it will not be used for that. But if you are using through the browser, it will be used for model improvement unless you deactivate this option. But if you deactivate this option, you also lose the ability to use the plugins and a few other features. So like mm, I'm always switching it on and off. When I need to use something different, I switch it on, but in my day to day it's usually off. So it will not retain my data for model improvement. But either way, even if you uncheck this block and say, hey, I don't want you to use my data, it will retain your data for 30 days for operational and security purposes. And it's basically looking if you breached any terms of conditions, if you use it for a non-regulated purpose. So it will only retain for 30 days and then it will delete your data. So in these cases, it's much safer to use ChatGPT. And our recommendations here is to always ensure compliance with local data regulations, so with GDPR, with CAN-SPAN, with all the regulations that you probably know much more than I do. And if you are unsure if your use case is complying with the regulation, please talk with your legal team. There are people that know this much better than I do, and it's their job to know. Uh, and the other recommendation is whenever you can, anonymize your data. So don't send identifiable information. Try to anonymize it as much as you can. And during the presentation, I'll give an example of a good anonymization that you can use in Marketo. And and there is it's a little tricky when you are saying about anonymization and not sending personable identifiable information. Here in Brazil, we have a law that's based in GDPR, and when I was studying for it for like past use cases and past projects, what I've learned a lot is that it's not only not saying, hey, the this person document is this number or this person address is this address, but you cannot have like enough information to identify the person. So for example, if you send the address and the person's age, that's probably enough to identify anyone. So you cannot send both of those informations at the same time. It's just a detail, but it's important. So remember that you can't also send enough information to identify someone. So, but that's a recommendation. Try to anonymize whenever possible, right? And that's all I brought here for ethics. So if you have any ethics question or comments, that's the moment to do it. Matt and Carrie, I rely on you guys because I can't see the chat, so there is nothing.
Oh, can you not? There's nothing in there. That's good for us to know, so I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, nothing in there yet.
All right, thank you. Right, so let's keep going here. So if you are not afraid of ethics and data privacy, we are going to start talking about how you can prototype your idea to get to your cool use cases. So an AI project, first thing, can be very demanding in terms of human resources, time and money. It takes a lot to be put in place. And sometimes you are not sure if it's going to work out or not. And even when you think it's going to work out, and you try to do it in Marketo, Marketo webhook responses are not very good to debug and they can be very challenging. So it's good to start at somewhere different than Marketo because it's pretty hard to use it there for debugging. It takes a much longer time. And that's why I usually prototype in Google Spreadsheets. So you can do a few quick tests and validate your idea even before you go to Marketo. And then with that validation, you can connect ChatGPT directly with Marketo using a webhook or using a middleman like Zapier or Machado or any other automation software that, that you like. But first, I always like to prototype my ideas using a Google spreadsheet connected with ChatGPT because it kind of helps you understand if that's going to work out, if ChatGPT is giving you a good response, and you can calculate the accuracy of the responses in the spreadsheet much easier than you would do in Marketo. How you do that, how you connect the Google Sheets with ChatGPT, first thing you go to OpenAI, platform.openai.com/API keys, and you need to create a new secret key and copy it. This secret key is it's kind of a password for any platform or system that is going to use your ChatGPT. So it's almost like their login information. So you have to keep it with you, and it will be useful for other use cases, not just this one. Anytime you have to connect ChatGPT with anything else, you need the secret key. So it's a very important step. Then you go to Google Spreadsheets in extensions, add-ons, get add-ons. You'll find this GPT for sheets and documents, and you install it. And finally, you click Set API Key. It will open a little box, and you set your API key, and you will be ready to use ChatGPT inside of your spreadsheet. You won't need to open the chat itself, and you can talk directly with ChatGPT there and ask questions using the GPT function. There are other functions there, but the one that I mainly use is ChatGPT. And here's a little teaser of our next topic. I'm asking, can you help me understand if a lead form field submission is a real or a bot? I'll send the email address and you answer me if it seems real, okay? So it can help us do that. Basically, that's the ChatGPT response here. And then we'll start to distinguish between real and bot leads, and we'll start really in the spreadsheet trying to create a proof of concept there and prototype before going to Marketo. But why we are going to do that? Because we know that reCAPTCHA can fail. Sometimes it will say that a real lead is a bot, and it will give a low reCAPTCHA score, and we will lose that lead because of reCAPTCHA. Because if it's a bot, we won't send it to sales, and we will lose that business opportunity. And sometimes it will also say that a bot lead is real, and we'll send to sales a lead that is clearly a bot, and it will create friction. It will get us complaints that, oh, marketing only sends us bot leads. So we can use ChatGPT to help us with that and stop sending bot leads to sales and stop making real leads into bots. And to do that, the first thing that you have to do is create your prompt, because the accuracy of ChatGPT will be directly related to the quality of your prompt. So if you create a bad prompt, it will like give you worse results. And the best way to create a great prompt is through trial and error. So it's like you have to test it to know if it's right. And if you go there in Marketo and set up your prompt and wait for 2 weeks to have enough leads coming in, we'll be losing time, we'll be losing money. So it's better to do it before. And to refine the prompt, we'll use the Google Sheets. So we go there, and I can show you guys a real example here. So I usually create my prompt here. So this is a very simple example. I'm going to send you the data of a form submission. Oh, you are seeing my spreadsheet, right? Didn't confirm.
Yes, yes.
All right. So I'm saying to ChatGPT, I'm going to send you the data of a form submission, and you'll answer me if the lead is real or bot. Answer only with real or bot. So here I add the information. This is my real information. The other ones are fake, so no problem there. And here I create the prompt using this prompt and the information in the columns from the left. This could be like a smart list export that you could do. Add here the information, add here the prompt, and here I call ChatGPT and I send it this prompt, this message. Answer only answer with real, and the real result here is that it is a real lead. Therefore, it is correct. But this prompt get a few mistakes. So for example, it says that this lead is a real lead when it clearly is a bot, right? QWERTY, it's clearly a bot. And this one too, it says that it's a real lead when it's a bot. So we have a score of 80%. And then I create here a new tab. And the only thing that I changed it was the prompt. I made it a little bit more complex, saying that it should look for weird names, job titles, and emails. And even if the email domain exists, the email can be fake. They can be indication of a bot. And also that random strings can indicate a bot. And I asked for answers only with real or bot, and it gave me their score of 100%. So if I went directly to Marketo and set up this prompt, that's the easier prompt, I would be missing on 20%. But first prototyping and trying to get the perfect prompt, I could get to 100%. Of course, this is in a small sample. In an ideal scenario, you will test this with 100 or 200 different leads, and that would be much better. But here is already an indication of which prompt is better, right? After you get your prompt, you have to set up a Marketo webhook here. And to do that, oh,
Sorry, that
right.
was me just bumping my mic. Don't ignore me.
No, no problem, Matt. Thank you. Uh, so you go to admin and set up your Marketo webhook. Here is the example of how I did that. This is the URL that we use, and it's a payload template, so you can use this as an idea. You can use the GPT 3.5 Turbo or the 4. I used the 4 here when I did, but the 3.5 Turbo worked just as good as the 4 in that scenario. I usually set the temperature to 0, and temperature is a parameter in the large language models that would set up the creativity of a model. So it goes from 0 to 2, 0 being the most analytical, 2 being the most creative, and the default is 1. You're usually asking when you are using the chat.openai, you are using the temperature default, that's 1. But in this specific use case, we are asking for a very analytical response, like analyze this data and give me an answer. I don't want it to be creative. I don't want it to think too much. I want to be very straightforward and give me a 0. If we were in a scenario that we wanted it to create content, for example, maybe temperature of 1 or even 2 would be better than a temperature of 0. But in this specific case, I want it to be 0, and I kind of want it to be a little robotic. If you try to have a conversation with a ChatGPT that has a temperature set to 0, you feel it is robotic, because it is like it has zero creativity basically to give you the most precise answer without uh, conversation, without anything. So temperature 0 is very good to this use case. Then you set the messages, role user, and the content here is your prompt. Request type always a post, and the response format always a JSON too. And then you map the response to a specific Marketo field, and you store that uh, in your database. You'll have the response if that's a real or a bot lead. And with that, you can, for example, exclude all the bot leads from your life cycle. You can uh, reevaluate past leads that were said that were bots by reCAPTCHA, but now that you see it's a real lead, you can get them back to your life cycle, to your lead scoring, to all of that. And then you finally just have to set up your smart campaign when a lead is created by a web form fill out, or even by other sources, but in this case, it's a web form fill out. You call the webhook, and it will directly do this. And that's it for the distinguish between real and fake leads. So anybody has a question? There are any questions? Sorry.
Nothing yet, but remember, everyone, feel free to throw them in the chat just while Lucas is presenting if you have any questions.
All right. So we will start now the fine-tuning ChatGPT to do the lead classification into personas. So the first use case, we were using ChatGPT directly without any preparation. Now things will start to get a little bit more complex, because I believe that fine tuning is actually ChatGPT's secret sauce. Because ChatGPT is trained on public data. So many use cases that we have in marketing ops demands very tailored data sets, very specific to our use cases. And when we fine tune a ChatGPT model, it will increase the accuracy in these use cases, and it will give us more confidence that we are using the best model possible. So a few use cases for this is the one that I'm going to show here. Is the persona-driven lead classification. So you'll be able to classify leads into personas using a fine-tuned model. And it doesn't matter if those are generic personas or very specific personas for your business. It will work the same way. And through that, you can improve your dynamic content, your personalization, uh, and specific journeys for each persona, because you have a much higher accuracy in this classification. And the cool thing, it also works with different languages. So if you're in a multinational that has 200 different languages in your database, uh, fine-tuned ChatGPT also works for that. And it also could be used, a fine-tuned ChatGPT, in the past example that we say between real and fake leads to distinguish between real and bot leads, because you would give it much more information that helps it define what's a bot lead, and it usually increases accuracy. So this the natural ChatGPT would give you an accuracy around of 90% usually. With the fine tune, you could get more than 95, sometimes more than 97% of accuracy. So it's pretty good, and it can make a difference. So the first thing, you need to prepare your data set to be sent to ChatGPT to train it. And for that, you split into this JSON-L file. You have to prepare this JSON-L file that is very hard to be created, but it has three main information. First thing, the systems, that's the context that you are sending to ChatGPT every time. The user, that's the message that you are sending to ChatGPT. Usually, if you are using the chat.openai, the platform itself, that's what you type there. Like that's the message that you send. That's the user parameter. And the assistant parameter is the answer that you want ChatGPT to give you. So you are training in which answer it should give you. And here, I don't know if you guys can see, I'm sending as the system message that you are marketing a system helping to classify personas based on their job title. I'll send you the job title and you answer with the persona only. Then I said cloud infrastructure specialist as the user message, and the assistant answer me P1. That's the first persona, for example. But I created a little spreadsheet that can help you guys to do that instead of creating manually this this JSON now. So here is even an example. Like you're going to be determining if this lead is genuine or bot based on their email. This is the email address that I sent, and I want the response to be bot. And this is the message in the end. That is the JSON-L in the end. And this is a spreadsheet that I use myself to create when I need to do a fine-tune model, and it will be sent with the presentation, so you guys can use it too. So this is the data preparation. I sent the job titles, classifying them into personas. That was the first thing that I did. And then we have to define which base model we are going to use. And right now, only GPT 3.5 is available for fine tuning. The old ChatGPT 3 base models are no longer available, but there still exist old models based on them, but you cannot create a new one based on them. And GPT-4 is not yet available, but OpenAI promised it would be no time, so let's hope it gets available soon. And in this case, GPT 3.5 was select model because it was the only one available, but it works really, really well. Then when you finalize selecting your model, you have to create your fine-tuned model. And the first thing, you have to install Python in your computer and open the command line interface. Install the OpenAI library. Here is the code to do it. Very easy. You set your API key, the same API key we got from the start, and here's the same code to use it. You have to prepare your data. You have to send your data to OpenAI. And finally, you create the model using this line of code here. I'm not getting too deep into it. There is a very good guide from OpenAI on how to do it. And I also uploaded my own notebook here, and you can use that. It has the code to create a fine-tuned model. And there is one thing that I forgot to mention in the data preparation here, that you should send not only a training data, but a test data. So in best practice, you split your data set into 80% for training and 20% for testing. And you will do that because ChatGPT will go through many training attempts. Usually they go through 3 training attempts, and each one of them they will compare with the test data set to understand, okay, this was a good result or we could do better. And so I always recommend splitting our data set. 80-20 is a very good ratio, and it will lead to a much better model. So you do these steps, and then you just set up your webhook in Marketo after you created it. Of course, you have to test it before, and you can do it in a Python notebook too, or you can go directly to Marketo and set up your webhook. The only difference now is that in model, you have to add here your fine-tuned model instead of GPT-4 or GPT 3.5. You add as
Oh, I think. Did everyone else lose
okay.
Lucas too? Oh, are you back, Lucas?
You cut out for a little bit there.
Give him a second to hopefully have.
Yeah, let me turn off his camera for him. There we go.
Oh, I'm back. I'm sorry.
There we go. No problem.
My internet stopped for a moment. Let me go my screen here. I changed my network. It does it sometimes.
There we go.
Where did you stop listening? Sorry.
You were just setting up the your system message tag. You were just speaking to that part.
Oh, all right. So here you have to add the exact same message as you did in your training data set. So you can see here you are a marketing assistant helping to classify personas based on their job title. And I'll send the job title and you answer with the persona only. And it's basically the same thing. And the same thing to your prompt. In this case, I just send the job title and that's it. And you then map it back to a specific Marketo field. Here you can see an example that I sent someone that is a data analyst, and the answer is P3, and P3 is the persona that works with data. And I sent a CTO, it returned me the persona 6, and these are the CXOs that are related to technology. So even in this short message, CTO, it understands that is Chief Technology Officer, and then it adds it as a persona 6, and that's it. And for the last use case, let's talk about how you can use ChatGPT to send emails in the best time ever for each lead. And that's an interesting use case because we have a coworker here in Revenue Pulse that always says that sometimes you have this perfect lead that is engaging to all your content and wants to buy from you and they become MQL'd, but your sales team will call them when they are like in the shower in the gym or just leaving the gym. That's like the worst situation possible to sell something, right? And that's the same thing with our emails. We tend to send them 9 a.m. PST thinking that they will reach everybody in their perfect moment, but it will be a very good moment for many people. And because that's usually the best send time, but it will also be a very bad moment for other people. There are people that would rather read their emails during their nighttime just before going to bed, and there are people that would rather do reading them in the middle of the afternoon. And that's why we created this use case that we can define exactly what's the best scenario for best send time. And to do that, we first have to get our leads activity using the Marketo API. We'll basically download the whole activity log for everybody. Use the ChatGPT API then to predict the best send times based on engagement patterns. And then we'll return these timings to Marketo and create smart campaigns that will deliver these emails in the best send time. And with the result, we can expect higher open rates, better engagement, and improved lead nurturing. And in the end, these are more MQLs, more opportunities being created, and more sales. The first thing we do, we have to retrieve all our data using the Marketo API, and we won't get too deep on how to do it. In the end of this presentation, there is also a blog post to revenue posts, and in that blog post, you'll find a few GitHubs notebooks that have exactly how to do it. So if you want to do it in the future, just go there. But we use the Marketo API to retrieve all the data and to do that. And we do that instead of doing manually, because to retrieve the activity log manually, you would need to go lead by lead. And in that, you can get in bulk, you can get all your leads activity log data. You have to treat your data before you send it to ChatGPT, because if you just send it to ChatGPT, that spreadsheet, it won't understand what's saying. So I treat it to say, hey, this is the lead 278. It had these emails being sent. Email 66 was sent this time and this date time. Email that was sent this date time, and this other email that was sent this date time. These were the open dates. So not open, not opened, and open specific moment. So then we can send them to GPT. You can do them individually or in batches of around 5 people. More than that, it tends to break. So I recommend at most 5. And then you craft your prompt and send it to ChatGPT. This is the one I usually use. You are in a data analytics assistant in a marketing automation and operation agency. I'm going to send you the anonymized information of which emails a lead received, the daytime it was received, and the daytime it was opened. Job is to respond when is the best time to send an email to the specific maximize the chance of the lead opening the email. For example, the hour the lead most open the email can be a best parameter. Try your best to determine a best send hour. Respond in a 24-hour clock. And if you can't define with -1. So this prompt that I use to send it. And there are a few details that are important. There is saying, hey, try your best to determine a best. ChatGPT will only say, I can't do that. And it can. You just have to be a little bit more persistent. And if you can, a 24-hour clock is very important too, because otherwise it will return a field as 13 and a standardization. And this -1 is too, because it will for you to send to set a
Lucas, we're gonna get you to say that
time
again, just because you're cutting in and out. I'm
Marketo.
gonna turn off your
Yes.
camera just in case that'll help. It's still going.
As usual, it will work. I'm sorry.
There we
My
go. Do
internet
we have
is-
you back, Lucas?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, perfect. I don't know why. My internet does that sometimes. So where did I miss you guys?
Pretty much right when you started talking about the 24-hour clock piece.
Oh, okay. So this is a part that I add just for consistency, the 24-hour clock, because otherwise you'll get a few answer as 1 p.m. and a few answer as 13, and this is not very good for consistency. And this final part, if you can't define the best send time, respond with -1. It's good to have like people that are default, that will not that can't be defined a best send time, and then you can send them in a default moment, and you can set it up as 9 in Marketo, for example. And something that I forgot to mention, that this is a great idea of anonymization, using the lead ID from Marketo to send messages to ChatGPT, because it's a number that holds no value. With without your Marketo instance. So it's not identifiable at all, and for ChatGPT, for anyone else in the planet except for you. So whenever you want to anonymize information from Marketo, lead ID is a great identifier. Then after you send your messages to ChatGPT, it will return you the information of the best send time. You upload it to Marketo. You can do that with a listing port. You can do that using the API. I personally prefer the API. I think it's a little cleaner. And you create a best send time field here, and then you can integrate that into your smart campaigns. And how you do that? Using smart campaigns, you use advanced wait steps. It's a little annoying to set up the first time. So you say, hey, wait 1 second, and it must end 8 a.m. PST. And then it looks, okay, if the best send time is 8, I'll send my email. Wait until more 45 minutes, and it must end 9 a.m. And then if the best send time is 9, you send the email, and you do that step over and over again. So it's very annoying the first time, but then when it's set up as a template, it's very easy to do over and over again. So you just have to do it once, and then you can get the results. Here's the blog post that we mentioned. We got in a very already optimized send time, around 3% increase of best send times on open rates with using this use case. So it's pretty good. If you don't have a optimized best send time yet, this could get even better results, but in a very good database with a very good optimization already, it even increased 3%. And I think that's it. The last part is calculating costs, because a lot of people think it's just the $20, and it's not just the $20 to use ChatGPT in an automated and streamlined way. And to understand the cost, you first have to understand tokens in ChatGPT. And a token is basically ChatGPT's coffee. It's very vital for its operation. It won't work without it. It's kind of the energy that makes it run. And usually one token covers 3/4 of a word, or and you have to track this token consumption. You can track this token consumption in the API response for each request, but if you don't have the access for the API response, you can use this OpenAI tokenizer, and it will help you count the tokens. But in average, 100 tokens are 75 words. Let me show you here here is the response from the API, and you can see here in usage, you have the prompt tokens. So these are the number of tokens used just to send the message, and the completion tokens. These are the tokens that ChatGPT used to type back. And totally we used 65 tokens here in this response. So this is how we track token usage. But you can say that 100 tokens are 7 words, and that's a great estimate. And then each model will have a different cost per token. And usually more advanced models have pricier tokens because they have increased capabilities. So for example, ChatGPT 4 costs $0.03 dollars per 1,000 tokens, while 3.5 it's like 1/20th of that, and a fine-tuned GPT 3.5 is 0.016 per 1,000 tokens. But you can see like everything of that, like all the costs in OpenAI pricing. This is just an idea. Like a fine-tuned ChatGPT 3.5 is still cheaper than a GPT-4, but it's 10 times more expensive than a GPT 3.5, for example. And using that, knowing how many requests you're going to make, how much tokens each request takes costs, you can calculate how much to cost monthly. Right. So that's it. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm here to chat with you guys.
I love the cost breakdown, Lucas, because it um, it kind of, you can do a bit of that simple math, right? If we're looking at, it was 60 for your persona piece, it was 65 tokens, 1,000 cost. I believe you had about 1.6 cents there.
Uh, yeah, 1.6
Yeah.
cents. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. So that's looking at per thousand you got. So 15, I think, roughly leads personified for 1 cent. So is
I
that,
think
did I,
so.
am I doing the math right there?
I think so. So it's
1,000.
yeah.
15 point. Yeah. Okay. So 15 leads per 1,000 tokens you could get personified if that 65 average holds out. So I think
Yeah.
you're looking
With
at
the fine tuned, we can say that it always holds out because we are always basically
right.
sending the same message. It
Yeah.
doesn't change. So
So
it will
really, you
always
could
hold
think
out.
like 15 for, let's call it 2 cents. Let's round up, right? Like
Yeah.
15. So let's say you've got a 100,000 person database you need to do. Oops. Looking at about $133 to classify a 100,000 person database into personas.
It's
Mind
much
you,
cheaper than hiring someone to just go there and classify
much
it.
cheaper. I mean, there's additional human costs. To your point, I thought it was funny in your presentation where you're like, um, you know, setting up the AI pieces aren't. It's not easy. There's a lot of human factor, which is kind of counterintuitive to what we want AI to be. Um, but definitely some cool use cases. So thank you a lot. If anyone else has any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat.
Yeah, I
And
really like your best send time use case. I feel like that would be a good thing to be able to process and like deliver to sales for phone calls or sales outreach.
True.
Like
Yeah.
I know you were like, oh, like having to go through and then make the email send at the best time. Yeah, that makes sense. But I feel like you could use that same logic for actually calculating the best time to reach people on the phone.
True.
And I think that would be really helpful for a sales rep to be able to know, like, hey, when's the best time after somebody, let's say, submits a form that I should be calling people, right? Like I know, like
Uh,
everybody's like, oh, within 5 minutes of somebody submitting a form, you should be reaching out to them for a contact. Is that necessarily true for every person that submits a form? Or when's the second best time to call them if it's several days later? And I feel like those are really actionable things that the sales team can take on. That's kind of cool. That would be a cool use case as well, off of that best send time one that you put
yeah.
together.
Yeah, it's a great idea, and I think like the basics are the same. Like get the
Yeah.
past data, create it, and you can
I
proceed to
was
save.
with the email send one too. Do you think? I wonder. It'd be interesting thing to study if additional data, not just email. So I was thinking, could you send like web visits? So when they visited your website previously, just as an idea would be like, oh, these are generally times that they are online and theoretically more likely to be available to email.
Yeah, we can get like any activity from the activity log and
Yeah.
feed that. I never did it, but it's a possibility, I believe.
So we do have a question here. So the question is, did you mention that you can only train GPT 5 people at a time for the best time to send an email to someone? Or was that referring to something else?
Oh, it was exactly that, Sharon. I wanted to do in batches because it takes forever to do a menu one at a time. Like had to leave your computer running for hours and hours. I tried to do like bigger batches of 20 people, and they would uh, ChatGPT would break it, forget about somebody, and I got 5 as this golden number. It never breaks, it never forgets about anybody, and at the same time, it gives you a great send time. And one at a time, it's kind of bad because it takes forever to finish processing. 100K person database, and 5 at a time, take around 2 hours, I believe, something around that. In my computer, if we can do that in AWS, in cloud computing, parallelizing, it would be much faster.
Right. So yeah, and in this case, you're pulling that data, you're bulk extracting that data, and then sending it and doing the calls from your computer rather than say running it via a webhook, which might take a lot more processing power from on Marketo's behalf, right?
Yeah, if we do it via webhook, I think we'll jam a Marketo instance for
Right. Yeah.
a few hours. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't, but
Well, you
if we
can't
do
call a
it,
webhook. It would make sense if you just do like a random sample and
Yeah.
like, but you can't do
Yeah.
that. You can't batch a webhook. It has
No,
to come off of a
you
trigger.
you have to you can, but you have to create
just
a
have to-
batch campaign that
uh,
requests a webhook
yeah.
campaign, which is
Yeah.
but who never did that in the past? Like created a very big webhook for 200, 300,000 people and jammed the Marketo
Oh, no.
instance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Everybody did that already, and I try to avoid that. But what I mean is like if you use Google Cloud Platform or AWS, you can parallelize this job of 100k people into like 100 jobs of 1k people, and that becomes very, very, very much faster, and you can do that in 2 to 3 minutes, maybe.
I think one of the things that I thought was cool, Lucas, is more the like mindset behind it. So you can imagine like you want to solve send times or grouping personas, but really just I think any problem you're sort of facing and just being like, okay, how can I solve this and what do I? And then I think for you, it's like the iteration process. It seems like experimenting until you're getting the results you want. So there needs to be a certain level of scale, I guess, for that to be worthwhile. But I think it's cool.
Yeah, and I think the first thing is like never think it's impossible. And that's something that Joe, our CEO, always says. Like you think it is impossible, but it is not. Like technology is already there, and maybe you just have to create a few things to make it happen. But usually it isn't impossible. So that's the first mindset, I believe. And the second one is knowing that the first results will be very bad. Every time that I try to create something new, like the first iteration is terrible and it might makes you wanna
So
give up. Yeah,
don't
but
get
don't.
discouraged. Keep going.
Yeah, keep trying because the first one is very bad always.
Well, yeah. If no one else has any questions, thank you everyone who watched, and Lucas, thank you in particular. Looking forward to seeing you speak at Summit.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you,
Looking forward
Kevin.
to it. Thanks for joining.
And thank you, everyone there. And, yeah.
Have a
And go
great
Leafs.
rest of the day.
Go
Leafs, go! Thanks very much.